Hi, Bill here with 30-Minute Woodshop. Thanks for joining. Today I want to show you how to make a really easy guitar stand. Now this is my guitar from back in, early 70s. Had it forever, played it. It's the one I normally go to, even though I have a Strat and a few others. This is the one that I like having to sit around and have access to. One of the problems I run into is this. When I want to play the guitar, I got to grab the case, toss it on the couch or wherever, open it up, get the thing out, play it, put it back. You know, it's a big pain in the butt. What I want is something that's very easy for me to access the guitar. Someplace where I can just set it down. When I want it, pick it up, play it, put it back. Super easy. Now, what I want to show you today is how to do that. Let's put this away because I don't want it hanging out here in the shop. And what we're going to do, like always, if you go to 30minutewoodshop.com or go to the bottom here and see more, you'll find links to things I use. You'll find a dimension sketch, all right, at my 30minutewoodshop.com. Check that out if you want to build this thing. Super easy. Materials we're going to use, I'm using this 1x12 piece of pine. You can choose to use walnut, maple, something fancy if you want. This basically is just going to be for hanging around. So let's go start doing some layout work. Layout, again, all you do is take this, take the drawing, put those dimensions on the board, and actually you can nest two pieces. If you have a clear piece of wood, it's really easy. Here's my problem though. See this wood? These two massive knots? Now I have to work around those. I don't want this being too close to the edge, and I don't want it being you know, too high or too low. What I want is I want to have that in a position where it's not going to interfere with the strength. And I'm probably going to have to add some CA glue in here just to make sure it's to stiffen it up a little. But here's what I did. I laid it down, taped a couple pieces of typewriter paper or computer paper together, made a quick layout, super easy to do, a template. And all I have to do is lay it here, line it up, put a few marks in, and finish up the lines, and I'm ready to start cutting. Let me do that, and I'll be back. Here's a mistake a lot of people make when using a template like this. This is just a paper template. I'm not going to try and trace the outside. All I'm going to do is locate this, and then I'm going to use the dimensions off of this. So I'm just going to mark the corners, okay? With those marks, now what I want to use is a straight edge. And you can see I'm just using a piece of wood here. I'm not doing anything fancy. I could use my Starrett, but there's really not any point in doing that. Okay, now I've got both those marked out. All I have to do is start doing some cutting. I want to make this cut first, this cut second on the radial arm saw. That's just so that it's a little easier to work with. Then I'm going to start doing some cutting with my bandsaw. All right, before we can start doing power tools, make sure you're wearing safety equipment. Safety gear for your eyes, you know, eye protection, hearing protection. I'm using a set of Isotunes. Love them to death. They're great, but any good set of earmuffs or earplugs, either noise canceling or up good to like 36 dB. Protect your hearing, protect your eyes. What else can I say? Also watch your fingers. Read and follow all the directions of your power tools too if you're using them. So let's start cutting. Okay, before I split this apart and start doing some routing, a few more things I want to do. First thing, you may have noticed that I kind of scalloped this corner out. If you think about it, when the guitar sits down here, I didn't want the corner of the guitar banging against this corner. So this gives me a little bit of relief there. Guitar will sit on this face and this face. So I should be good to go. The way this works is there's a hinge here. All right, and then what keeps it from opening too far is actually, it's not shown in the drawing, but there's actually a piece of leather, right, a leather thong that goes between these two sides. Now what I happen to have here, where'd it go? I have this piece of black leather strip that I'm going to be using for that. To do that, I need to put a couple holes in here. Way easier to drill those holes simultaneously while it's still put together. So let me put the holes in. Make sure I can jam it in there, and it looks like I can. I hope. There we go. So what I'll do here, a little bit of finish off, I'll probably put a tack on this side. I have a 3/8" radius bit chucked up here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that all around these corners on both sides up to here. The reason I'm going that far is because these edges I'm going to hit with an 1/8", and then I'm going to put leather strips on here to protect the guitar. So let's start making some noise. Okay, next operation is I'm going to take this trim router, which has an 1/8" roundover bit on, and all these spots I didn't hit, I'm going to round over real quick. Now you could do a lot of this with hand sandpaper, just takes a little longer. All I'm going to do here is with 220 grit, an orbital sander, I'm going to surface sand these and do a little bit of just touching the edges here. Then I'll come back and do some hand sanding to make these spots a little more like this transition right here, make that a little smoother. Those kind of things, get rid of a couple of burn marks. But let's start sanding. Okay, sanding's done. All I did extra was took a little sandpaper and kind of rounded off these corners a little bit more, smooth those out. Now what you do is put on some, I'm putting some finish on this. I'm using what's called Binwax Special Walnut, which is a pretty dark stain. Depends on what you're making these out of. If it's walnut or maple, you could probably leave them as is or put a light stain on the maple. Looks really good. I want these to be a lot darker than the pine. So I'm going to throw this on. And I'll probably end up throwing 2 coats, to be frank, because pine does some weird stuff whenever it gets stained, as you can see. So I'll throw this on, let it dry, see what it looks like, and I may put another coat on, and then I'll go ahead and throw some final finish on, like a varnish, maybe a lacquer, kind of depends. We'll see what happens. So I'll finish this up, be back in a while. The stain's dry. Now I'm getting ready to put on a final finish. That finishes, I'm using this Helmsman Spar urethane. So this is an oil-based urethane spray type. I'm using oil-based because this is an oil-based stain. If you're going to use a water-based stain, use water-based urethane over top of it. All right, water always works. Oil always works. If you try and put water-based on top of oil, it doesn't usually work real well. However, you can put oil on top of a water base, easy as pie. Now, all I'm doing is I'm going to be spray painting this stuff with this rattle can varnish. Going to take about 3 coats. So let's start spraying. Next thing you want to do is you want to make some strips out of some leather, so that gives a spot for the guitar to sit and it's nice and soft and won't mar the finish. What I have here is one of my wife's purses. Make sure, guys, you don't go grabbing your wife or better half's purse and start cutting it up without their permission. They can get pretty froggy about that. So pretty straightforward. I have this really great little Gerber knife that uses an X-Acto blade. Makes it very easy to come in here and start separating. Really easy to start separating the threads. And as I do that, it gives me the opportunity to maximize the use of the leather. Now, you don't have to use leather, okay? Like I said, you can use something like a felt or, faux leather, dog hide. That works just as well. All you're trying to do is provide some place for the guitar to rest so it doesn't damage the finish. As long as you get something like that, you're doing pretty good. So it comes apart pretty easy. You can see that happening pretty fast. We'll do a little more work on this, tear it apart, and then we'll cut some strips out of it. And those strips are the ones we're going to use on the edges, just so the guitar has someplace to sit. So I'll be back in a little bit. So let's throw the hinge in. What I'm using here is a salvaged sewing machine case or cabinet hinge. Pretty easy for me to use. You can use any kind of hinge here you want. This happens to be a brass one, and it's pretty old. It actually came from my mom's sewing machine cabinet. But we'll screw this thing down. Now to make these holes, I'm using a Vicks bit. This is made in the U.S. Personally, I wouldn't recommend the Chinese versions. It's a little self-centering bit, works perfectly. Easy as pie. Let me wrap this thing up and we'll move on to some of the final steps. Contact cement set up, running really nice here. Everything's buttoned down perfectly. Last thing we want to do is put in our leather strap. Now all this is going to do is just keep it from sliding open. We'll get this put in here. So the great thing about this is you can decide how wide you want this based on your guitar. And I think for me that's probably about there someplace. We'll do a little bit of setup just to make sure that's right, but it's pretty straightforward. All I'm going to do now, I'm just going to button these down with a couple of upholstery nails to hold these two ends in place. And that way when I want to get rid of it or fold it up, carry it away, I don't have to tie any knots in it. Now if you're going to use something like a leather shoelace, which works really well for this, easy enough, cut it to length, right? Put a couple of I put figure 8 knots in it. They're a little larger, all right? And definitely use a smaller hole. And that would be perfect for this. You don't need something as thick as this. This is 3/8. All right, it's a 4 millimeter thick by 3/8 wide. That's a little overkill for this, but it's what I got. So let me get this buttoned down. I'll be back in a couple minutes. What a quick and easy project. And a useful project too, I have to say. The guitar fits perfect on this. I couldn't even ask for it. It touches down here all along. I got a clearance back here in the corners. Probably can't see that, but where I cleared out back here. We'll flip it around here a little bit. You can see the clearance back here. Corner of the guitar is not touching. That is perfect. Oh my gosh. What a deal. So I see this being used regularly and frequently. Guitar's protected on all corners. I don't have to worry about it banging on the sharp points or anything. I think this is going to be really good. I'll be using it daily, and I'll tell you what, I'm sure my guitar is going to improve dramatically over the next couple of months as I start re-engaging and playing this some more. So, hope you got something out of this. If you did, do me a favor. Run down here, hit like and subscribe. If you want plans to make it, you can always find plans at 30minutewoodshop.com, or you can hit see more, and there's a link down there for you. Also links for tools and things that I use. Feel free to explore those. You might have some fun. And hey folks, on that note, hope you got something out of this. And if you did, like I said, hit like and subscribe. Do me a big favor. And until next time, good making.